am the Irish Guy, and this is the Prem Catch-Up. Let's see what happened in the Premier League for Game Week 10, and oh, lads. Just warning, this video features my greatest ever prediction. I know, I'm surprised too. Right, let's go. Bournemouth 2, Man City 1. Imagine any person on planet Earth predicting Manchester City to lose 2-1 against Bournemouth in the Premier League this weekend. Like, surely there wasn't one, right? Out of the 9 billion people on this rock, surely such a man did not exist. Surely not. I mean, Bournemouth had never beaten Manchester City ever in the entire existence of football. There was not a single Bournemouth fan on earth who knew what it felt like to beat Man City, even when they were poor. So now, to predict them to beat arguably the best football team on planet Earth, nah, it's like someone predicting that the sun will turn purple, that a unicorn will chew off the king's ears, that Ollie Murs would turn into a werewolf and start eating half the population of Sunderland. Anyone predicting the great Pep Guardiola to experience defeat in Bournemouth's caravan-sized ground, it was a bit like predicting that Simon Cowell will marry a monkey. Just, what? I am about to say the 3 greatest words in the English language. Play the clip!
I initially thought the Man City might wolf them for tea with a 3-1 win, but no, for the first time this season, I'm going to back them to lose, so I'm going to go for a Cherries win 2-1. You might think I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, Andoni Iola is a genius. Just you watch, and if I get this right, I deserve double points.
This is the greatest prediction I've ever spewed out of my mouth. This season is a season of vindication for me on one narrative, okay? Just one. But an opinion I've held for over a year now was when Gary O'Neill was replaced at Bournemouth by Andoni Iola. People were enraged. Most football fans were actually massively offended on Gary's behalf to sack this lovable little British chipmunk after he helped keep the Cherries up, and to bring in some unknown Spanish gaffer with zero experience of English football. I mean, the closest he ever got to Premier League football was when he used to eat brunch with Frank Lampard in New York. Right? And lads, last Halloween, he was favoured for the sack. 0 wins in his first 9 matches. Lads, a year ago today, his Cherry side were getting embarrassingly slaughtered 6-1 at the Etihad. Just weeks after O'Neill had fluked to win over Pep with Wolves. And yes, it was most certainly a fluke. They only had 1 shot on target, and yet still scored 2 goals. Work that one out. Admit it, a year ago, you thought Iola was a fraud. You thought he was just a modern-day Pepe Mel. That he should be flushed back to Spanish football because he clearly wasn't suited to this nation. That even the smell of fish and chips was enough to make a bleed from the nose. People thought I was utterly insane to keep championing this man, but lads, he has just beaten Arsenal and Man City inside the same month. I mean, Arteta and Guardiola used to be in the elite coaching circle at the Etihad. 2 ingenious football brains who probably smugly had their tea breaks whilst laughing at the rest of the cookie brain coaches in this league. Yeah, Iola has now just collected both these guys' smiles in his lunchbox. This man has inside the last few weeks become their dad. But lads, this goes even further than just that. To prove what a big game coach this man is, in his last 2.25 seasons of management, Iola has now masterminded 7 wins over teams who were in the Champions League that season against Real Madrid, Barcelona, Sevilla, Newcastle United, Manchester United, Arsenal and Manchester City. He also beat Barcelona twice the season before for good measure as a newly promoted Rayo Vallecano. That is freakishly insane. 7 wins over Champions League teams in 2.25 seasons, overcoming Ancelotti, Xavi, Sampaoli, Howe, Ten Hag, Arteta and Pep. Wow! Put some respect on this absolute dynamite manager's name. Because I'm telling you lads, if he had been born in Halifax instead, if this man's first name was instead Greg, and he carved out a career playing in midfield for Portsmouth, if this man was English enough to be mates with the dwarf of JLS, then I guarantee you would all be holding him up as a future world-class manager, which he is. He's everything Graham Potter is not. But instead, he just gets given the same respect as that bumbling waiter at Faulty Towers. Ipswich Town 1, Leicester City 1. Lads, Jamie Vardy did not score! Jamie Vardy didn't score! I can't tell you how relieved I was because, lads, when I woke up this morning, I really did not want to have to dunk more rotten ice cream on my head. Believe it or not, I don't actually enjoy smelling of a middle-aged ice cream van driver. I don't like thinking of someone who chews calippos in their sleep. But to be fair, Vardy did actually provide a delightful assist in the final minute, chopping a 1-2 for Jordan Ayew to score a sensational last-minute equalizer for Leicester. But lads, I am gutted for Ipswich. I know this was the battle of the newly promoted sides, but no, these fans of both clubs do not have shared recent experiences. No, whereas 20 years ago, sure, Leicester would have been so jealous of Ipswich and how they began this century, that, you know, beating actual Inter Milan in the Europa League, with the Tractors sharing the pitch with world-class quality like Christian Vieri, Clarence Seedorf, Adriano and Ronaldo. But no, Ipswich have gone and spent decades in the doldrums, whilst Leicester have recently won the Premier League. So no, a win for Ipswich would have been far more to their fans than it would have done for Leicester. Leicester City have enjoyed plenty of Premier League wins recently. They won one by 9 goals to 0. But Ipswich, they have not tasted a Premier League victory since their most famous fan was probably still pooing the bed after eating too many blue Smarties after 9. And here they were closing in on the first Premier League win in over 20 years after an incredible volley from left back Leif Davis. Honestly, this 24-year-old Geordie smacked home one of the most technically glorious goals I have ever seen in Premier League football. This guy is going to be that random as hell person chucked into a best of Premier League goals compilation video in a few years' time. A bit like how Lilian Nallis, Pashtim Kasami, and Mabulu Mabazela are only known for that one wonder goal. Honestly, what a strike from Davis. Honestly, after 21, yes, 21 assists from left back last season, I am starting to think, why on earth was this former Wallsend Boys Club defender never even given a contract at his boyhood Newcastle United? I mean, lads, left back has been a problem position at that club for decades. How else do you explain how a few years ago they were having to unveil a chunky Danny Rose, who clearly had more love for Egg McMuffins than he did kicking a football anymore? Maybe I'm overreacting to what a sizzling strike that was, but lads, I don't know. The guy's got nearly 40 assists from left back in just 2 and a bit seasons at Ipswich. That is immense. But honestly, lads, at the risk of sounding like an obsessive creep, I'm going to keep my eye on Leif Davis. Left back has been such a weak link, a problem position for England too. So much so that Lewis Hall was getting championed for an international call-up this weekend. You know, the kid who in March of this year had just spent 24 games on the bench in his debut season at St. James's Park. 24 games without even being asked to come on as a sub. The kid's career looked like it was in free fall. It looked like Eddie Howe wouldn't even have been bothered if Hall had been eaten by a panda on a day trip to the zoo. And yeah, now he's in the England conversation. So I'm just saying, Thomas Tuchel, keep an eye on this absolute assist magnet. I just bought the inside of my lip. It's almost like my mouth is trying to tell me what I'm saying is dumb. Newcastle 1, Arsenal 0. What? Wait, I am sorry. I doubted St. James's Park. I thought this stadium, while it is an absolute cauldron of chaos at night time, I thought it was a meek, new little office in the daytime. And especially for morning kickoffs. It ain't the same. It's really not. St. James's Park at night is scary. But again, early afternoon matches, where the crowd is sleepy, where the Geordies are still picking cornflakes out of their teeth on the way to the match, it's usually pretty meh. It's a bit like watching a scary film like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at 11 a.m. with a bowl of Frosties in your hand. It doesn't feel the same. But no, Newcastle United were amazing. This was the Eddie Howe team from 2 seasons ago. They were brilliant, and so for all those fans wanting him sacked early doors, it's just nonsense. They've now beaten both Chelsea and Arsenal inside a week. Howe tactically tweaked things with Anthony Gordon on the right wing, and sure, the guy was probably a bit sore not to be given an afternoon of trying to roast Thomas Partey at right back on the other side of the pitch. I mean, Gordon loves cutting inside so much, but still, there was no moaning, no sulking. Instead, he delivers one of the most pinpoint crosses I have ever seen. It was David Beckham-esque. That cross onto Alexander Isak's bonce. That would be something that would make Kieran Trippier proud. But he's just a rotting cauliflower in the Newcastle treatment room, where he's probably desperately slipping his number 2 a nurse. Great win for Newcastle, but as for Arsenal, this was almost a crisis weekend, because Man City let you off the hook by messing up on the South Coast themselves. But honestly, lads, the fact that Gunners are now taking just 1 point for the last 3 matches, it does feel like a disaster. But I'm sorry, when the likes of Bukayo Saka were in the press a month ago, saying how he thought this was their year, no, just no. That is asking for trouble. Well, lads, things look like they're falling apart at the Emirates, because even the sporting director Adu has quit. So the last remaining invincible is gone, after apparently being wooed by Forest's scary owner Evangelos Marinakis, who's apparently offered him a job at a group of his clubs, which include Forest, Olympiacos, or Rio Ave, and a potential 4th club he's looking to buy in Europe. Lads, Marinakis looks like a very scary bad guy. Are we sure Adu is agreeing to work for him of his own accord? Come on, Adu! Blink twice if your family is chained to a pipe in Marinakis' basement. This looks a bit like when Forest looked like they were kidnapping Mark Clattenburg last season. Why? Why would Adu want to quit Arsenal to work for this James Bond villain, the evil Hagrid? It just doesn't make any sense. But lads, while we're on the Newcastle United chapter, can I just speak on a former Newcastle player for a minute? Because lads, Charles Nzogbia has just been arrested for stealing a pony. Okay, no, forget it, that's not true. No, lads, I'm sorry. Okay, but when I was growing up, before I discovered the magic of Hanan Ben Arfa and then tried to model my game on him, my childhood hero was Damien Duff. 3 years ago, he takes over the fallen giants Shelburne in Ireland, and his press conference was the most terrified I have ever seen a manager. His voice was shaky. He openly admitted, "I am scared," and actually mentioned the words midlife crisis and "I didn't have a plan" after leaving Celtic's coaching staff. He admits he originally turned down the Shelburne job the previous week because he was lacking courage and lacking personality. Duff literally said in his interview that if this doesn't work out, you might see him in a coffee shop, as he would happily be a barista. He said he didn't even want to join Celtic as a backroom coach because he didn't back himself. The only reason he took it was because his wife made him do it. Yeah, he did not look or sound like a gaffer. He looked like someone who was ready to burst into tears. He looked like he was going to be a football joke. Someone not ready for this challenge. Like when Dwight York failed at MacArthur FC. Weirdly, he's now the Trinidad and Tobago manager. Very, very strange. But anyway, no, back to Duff. Lads, it is 3 years later, and he has just won Shelburne their first Premier Division title in 18 years. He has just achieved what Ruud van Nistelrooy did at Sporting Lisbon. This summer, Damien Duff is going to be managing in a Champions League qualifier, which is really special because, lads, I remember back in 2004, Shelburne held Deportivo La Coruña to a 0-0 draw in a Champions League qualifier. Just months after the Spanish Giants had just reached the Champions League semi-finals, where they crashed out to Jose Mourinho's Porto. And speaking of which, this Portuguese legend was actually involved in this Irish fairy tale story because Duff rang him after the title win.
If he doesn't answer, I'll put Monkey in the whip tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah!
Let's see what he thinks of me.
What's the song, yeah? What is the song? Jose Mourinho.
500 quid on the line.
Wait. Please don't answer. I want to know. He's like, who's this?
It's ringing.
It's getting awkward now.
Oh. It's a foreign ringtone.
Oh, come on, Josie, pick up the phone.
Oh.
What a chance. It's awkward. It's very awkward now. Oh dear. This is awkward. Don't worry, Damien, okay? I know how you feel. I know exactly what it feels like not to get a Josie response.
Hello, I'm the Irish guy, and today we are outside Jose Mourinho's mansion, wondering how on earth we can possibly scale the gates.
Right. I've told you enough.
No, please. I want to tell Jose I love him.
Yeah, that was strange. But Josie did send Duff a private message to show the team before they beat Derry to clinch the league. Yes, Mourinho was actually involved in a League of Ireland title win. I'm sorry, but this golden nugget of a football story featuring Mourinho and Duff, I had to mention it. I had to. Honestly, Duff, yes, you might look like a cross between Gattuso and Scooby-Doo's mate, but you, sir, are an absolute legend. I would love to meet this guy one day because he is an absolute hero. And boy, do I want Shelburne to play Fenerbahce in the Champions League qualifiers. Please, just please, football overlords, grant that magic wish. And lads, I will make a small, outlandish prediction, okay? The Turkish media company, Akun Media, purchased Shelburne last year. They also own Hull City, so honestly, maybe in a year, Duff to Hull? Oh, Alfie, you keep your grubby mitts off my Duff. Now I just sound like a manic Barty Gumble. Nottingham Forest 3, West Ham 0. Okay, what is going on at Nottingham Forest? Look, everyone said that Nuno Santo would be getting the sack early doors, and that this club were going to get plunged back into the championship. And it's a fair suggestion. Forest were pretty hopeless before and even after Santo joined last Christmas, and only stayed up due to how awful the 3 promoted teams were. Ozzy, 32 points should not be enough to keep you in this division. I mean, Forest's opponents on Saturday evening know that more than anyone, because they were once relegated with 10 points more. Ozzy, lads, 1 defeat in West Ham's final 11 league games in 2003, and they still went down. How unfair was that? But Santo, for someone who I think everyone knows was nowhere near close to being Forest's first choice replacement for Steve Cooper last Christmas. In fact, his role was so insecure within that building. The Forest board had such little faith in this Tottenham egg splat that within 3 months of taking the job, they were already trying to get Maurizio Sarri in the dugout instead. I'm convinced that whole thing just came about during a messy boardroom meeting where one of the directors was too embarrassed to admit they had a Justin Bieber ringtone, pretending that it was, yeah, them and not their phone, which had chirped up with, "Is it too late now to say sorry?" Yes, it was too late because they already had Santo in the job. In fact, Santo wasn't really wanted when he got the Spurs job either. He was about 9th choice on their shopping list, and he was never really that marquee star name that Al Ittihad were that bothered with. Because about a year ago, they literally let him hold talks about a return to Wolves. In fact, Santo wasn't even the first choice on the Molyneux shortlist back when they were in the Championship. They were apparently sniffing around Ida Karanka and Marco Silva first. I mean, nothing should prove that Santo's been so disrespected in football management circles than the fact that he once lost his job to Gary Neville. So honestly, after this brilliant season, oh, just watch who Santo's next club is gonna be. But I am telling you, if Forest finish inside the top half, the guy's next job, Chelsea. Wolves 2, Crystal Palace 2. Well, would you look at that? Wolves have now failed to win their first 10 league matches for just the 3rd time in their history. The other 2 times that happened were in 1983 and 1926. And yet Erik ten Hag was destroyed for overseeing Man United's worst Premier League start to a season. But, oh, everyone's darling little boy O'Neill. It doesn't even feel like he's under pressure. Everyone still seems to think he's this cute little gerbil who they'd love to kiss on the nose. I'm sorry, but a 2-2 draw at home against Crystal Palace is not good enough. Honestly, I think it's mental how Iola is the Champions League Kingslayer, whilst O'Neill is some incompetent little chump, and yet nobody says nothing. Tottenham 4, Aston Villa 1. Well, it's official. Unai Emery must officially hate coming head-to-head with Ange Postecoglou, because now, in the last 2 meetings, he's lost on aggregate 8-1 against a rival for the Champions League spots. Look, I laugh at people in my Premier League prediction series when they back Morgan Rogers to score, blinded by the English media who are trying to trick you into thinking he's a mini Bellingham, despite the fact he's older than Jude. But to be fair, he did score here, but Villa absolutely melted like a banana muffin. Some of the Villa defending was woeful. Brennan Johnson equalises in the second half before Dominic Solanke takes advantage of some horror defending to score 2. And with super sub James Maddison putting the icing on the cake with a smooth last-minute free kick. Brilliant Spurs win, but Villa must be sick. Liverpool 2, Brighton 1. Liverpool are top of the league. How did this happen? How are we 10 games into the season and Arne Slot, some unproven Eredivisie risk who I thought would splutter and choke as the follow-up act to Klopp? How on earth does he have Liverpool top? Seeing what great shape the Reds are in after Mo Salah spanked in the winning goal against Brighton. I wonder if Klopp is regretting having walked away. I mean, he's clearly not a complete burnt-out crisp who wants to be on holiday for a year because he's coming back to work after just 6 months with the wife, doing some weird work for Red Bull. Does this mean he's now an enemy of Prime? Does his new job just consist of sending hate mail to KSI and Logan Paul? But can you imagine Liverpool win the Premier League this season? I don't care what anyone says. Whilst he's busy being the Red Bull bad guy, currently diluting his Borussia Dortmund legacy in a sugary bucket of pee, I bet he will feel pretty sick if Liverpool win the league without him. Man United 1, Chelsea 1. Boring match. Look lads, I want the Ruud van Nistelrooy to be given a Premier League crack at management because he is an absolute Manchester United legend who deserves at least a game. And I think it's funny how, despite it being 15 years later, and the fact that he's now an old man in a turtleneck, he still celebrates as a manager how he celebrated as a player. Both arms out like this in front of his chest and screaming like a werewolf in heat. So it was quite fitting that the first Premier League goal of Ruud's reign was a Van Nistelrooy-esque penalty buried in the bottom left corner. But this whole game felt very meh. It was a bit like everyone was just waiting for Ruben Amorim to arrive. Ruud was the warm-up act to a comedy show who nobody really wanted to see. So yeah, I don't even really want to dwell on this game because it was incredibly boring. Southampton 1, Everton 0. Southampton have won. Southampton have won. Southampton have actually won a match. Their first Premier League win since dinosaurs roamed the earth. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know what do you think. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of the Premier League Game Week? So this week, let me know. What do you think? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to connect, share, and subscribe as always. I'll talk shit a while.